The book I chose to do my book talk on is The Gunslinger by Stephen King. It was published on June 10th, 1982, and has 300 pages in it. This is the first book in the series and follows the main character, Roland of Gilead, who is the last of the gunslingers in what seems like a post-apocalyptic, Old West setting where some relics of our world have crossed over. From the way he's treated by the people he meets, you can determine that he himself, like the idea of gunslingers in our world, seem to be a relic from their own past, and Roland claims this is because the world has moved on. This book, the first of 8, begins Roland's adventure towards the mysterious Dark Tower by first having to chase down the Man in Black. It begins with him in a great, seemingly endless desert, and we know very little about Roland. Piece by piece throughout the book, he gives parts of his own history. The book itself is separated into several smaller pieces, as it was created from 5 shorter stories written over the span of 12 years by Stephen King. I loved this book, and more importantly the series, because it starts by telling you very little about Roland and how he seems nearly depraved of emotion, yet piece by piece you can gather Roland's history and slowly begin to know what the world was like before it moved on, in his words. I would recommend this book to anyone who likes books that are fictitious fantasy books. It's a very hard read, as the author uses a lot of difficult and unfamiliar language, and the characters speak in a way that is very different to modern speech. It also contains several parts with more sexual content, and I would not recommend this to anyone that isn't comfortable with that. The passage I chose was a detailed passage about his environment. It says, "The Man in Black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. The desert was the apotheosis of all deserts, huge, standing to the sky for what looked like eternity in all directions. It was white and blinding and waterless, and without features save for the faint, cloudy haze of the mountains which sketched themselves on the horizon, and the devil grass which brought sweet dreams, nightmares, and death. An occasional tombstone sign poked the way, for once the drifted track that cut its way through the thick crust of alkali had been a highway. Coaches and buckets had followed it. The world had moved on since then. The world had emptied." All in all, I would recommend this book to anyone who's a strong reader and enjoys detailed, descriptive language and a rich storyline.